Um, so we have a fragile pause, and I would say pause. I'm not sure if we can even raise this to the level of ceasefire, because I think this is still very much an active conflict. We've got, when it comes to U.S.-Iranian relations, as it were, a pause, but it's not something that has resulted in complete ending of fire even within the Gulf itself. Different Gulf states today, Gulf Arab states have reported strikes from Iran, drones and so on. I think less than what they saw before, and it could be that these strikes are the result of the command and control structure not having yet, actually filtered in because they're fulfilling pre-existing commands. We don't know. We do know that the Iranians said that they are sending negotiators to Pakistan, to Islamabad. So that indicates that they're taking this seriously. Of course, that was this morning, and we're now this evening. And what we've also had throughout the day is, I think, the largest amount of bombardment of Lebanon by the Israelis, despite the fact that there's a truce going on. And I'm sure Yazid will talk more about this, but the Pakistanis, when they announced the ceasefire, indicated that Lebanon was part of the ceasefire. Um, well, the Israelis dispute that, and Trump seems now to be on the record as saying that no, Lebanon is a separate thing altogether because of Hezbollah. And that sets into motion a very difficult dynamic because we don't know for sure if the Iranians will then balk at the idea that they continue with this process while Lebanon is still up in flames, or if they throw Hezbollah under the bus in order to keep the ceasefire process actually going. We simply don't know yet. We may well know on the course of this call. I'm not sure because things are changing pretty drastically, a minute by minute, hour by hour. But at the moment, that's still unclear. Um, I should say that Hezbollah did observe the ceasefire when it first came in, but of course, I don't expect them to do so for very long, considering the strikes that have already been underway. Multiple strikes. You're correct, Chris. These figures that I've seen are over 90 people today. And of course, the Israelis have been indulging in rhetoric that can only be defined as genocidal when it comes to Lebanon, comparing what they did in Gaza to what they intend to do in the south of Lebanon. So it means that the Israeli portion of this is particularly unresolved. Um, I should say that even within the Gulf, things were unresolved. I got reports earlier today, actually just before I got on the phone, that even without the Lebanon angle here, the Iranians were not intending on allowing much more traffic within the Strait of Hormuz before more discussions with the Americans and negotiations. And I'm not sure if people are going to be able to verify that anytime soon, because of course now it will be thrown together when it comes to Lebanon. But it does indicate that on the Iranian side as well, there are varying degrees of upholding this pause. I should also say that when it comes to the Israeli element here, I want to make something very clear because I think people sometimes get this wrong. Um, Netanyahu would not be able to do anything within this arena at all unless he got sign off from the Trump administration. And indeed, there was a report that came out earlier today that indicated that Netanyahu did ask Trump about Lebanon and said that he wanted to keep going in Lebanon, and Trump did not stop him. Trump continues to have, just as every American president has, tremendous leverage over the Israelis and has decided not to use it. I want to say a couple more things before I hand over. One relates to Gulf security dynamics more generally. I think that at some point this war is going to end. When it does, it's going to leave the Gulf in a very awkward position because their calculations around their own security architecture vis-a-vis the American, not umbrella, but there was a sense in the Gulf that they could rely on the US to come to their aid and also to protect their security. Whereas what happened instead is that the United States centered their own desires and the desires of the Israelis over any security consideration of any Gulf Arab country. I don't think the Gulf is going to forget that anytime soon. They also did it in conjunction with the Israelis, which I think is even more inflammatory when it comes to pretty much every Gulf capital as well. So I think that that system around security architecture is going to be problematic for them. At the same time, I don't expect the Gulf to distance themselves from the US. I think that they will try to diversify, but not distance. One of the reasons why the death toll in the Gulf on the Gulf Arab side has been so low is because there has been such a tremendous amount of technology intercepting drones and missiles. I do think that they're going to find it very difficult to imagine a sustainable future if the Strait of Hormuz is not returned to complete international maritime control, i.e., freedom of movement. But we'll see what happens there. And the final thing that I wanted to say, and there's so much more to say, right? There's Iraq, there's Syria, there's Palestine, but one thing that I think should also be on people's minds. This all happens against the backdrop of a wider regional picture, and that wider regional picture has Israeli paramountcy front and center, and it's being underwritten by this current American administration, as it was under the Biden administration. I think this is all going to raise a lot of questions within countries like Turkey, but also throughout the Gulf, trying to figure out what do they do for the future, where a war like this could take place that was so incredibly destabilizing for the Gulf, for the wider region, and for the international community, and happened, I won't say solely because I don't think that's correct. I think that Trump bears the greatest responsibility for this war, but happened because, at least in part, the Israelis wanted it to happen and managed to convince Donald Trump that it was something that ought to be done. Their quote unquote freedom of movement to attack and to disrupt all across the region, whether it be in Palestine or Lebanon or in Syria and now Iran and the Gulf, I think is something that people will have to take very seriously indeed.